Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to talk about Circle Leader surveys or progress reports. We refer to them in the data system as Circle Leader surveys because they're about other things than just progress. They're about surveying where the circle leaders are and evaluating what's going on. To get to the surveys themselves, we would go to Manage Circle Groups from the Site menu. We would go to the circle group that we're interested in either adding or looking at these results. And then we would go to the Manage Circle Leaders screen. So we're going to select Art Gonzalez here, and we're going to go to his survey reports. We get to these from the view screen of the circle leader by going to Manage Surveys. Okay, we can see here that Art has 3 surveys in the system, an initial, a graduation, and a 6-month report. And I'm just going to mention something here that's really important. Some of the Circle's initiatives haven't been doing an initial report until they get to graduation. And if that's the case, then the report needs to go in not as a graduation report, but as an initial report, because it's going to create the baseline for what we're doing with this particular circle leader. So I'm going to go in here and we're just going to go into the Create CL survey and look through here. You'll see that it's given us the report date for today's date. You can change this to whatever date the report was done, if it was done at a prior time and you're just entering it now. You would select what type of report. One thing to notice here is that your 6-month reports are down here, and that's just because this is in alphabetical order. But we're going to do a 12-month report. Are you part of a match circle? Yes. Number of allies, 3. Now we also keep this information on allies in the system separately, and we will be using that information to evaluate this. There's some questions here about attending at least 2 weekly meetings each month, whether they attended a weekly meeting on parenting, one on financial management. Some of this 4C stuff you'll see will change, and we'll be presenting a new Circle Leader survey at conference. And when we do that, then we'll be rolling out a new video here as well. But some of this information around question number 4 is going to change. We're interested here in whether or not circle leaders are working with ad hoc allies and what kind of benefits. So we would like to have you record that here. This is really critical to us, and as we're looking at the data, we're noticing that some of these aren't populated. But we really want to know if your major goal in your plan to become self-sufficient is education, employment, or other. And we use this in the analysis of the stuff, so we would, highly encourage that you do that. The rest of the questions in 6 are just about, wages. If you filed a tax return, what your adjusted gross income is from last year. It's important to remember that there's no dollar signs, there's no commas. So if my adjusted gross income last year was, 24,180, then that's the way it goes in the system. Okay. This is last year's earned income tax credit from their tax return. We're very interested in finding out if circle leaders are applying and using the earned income tax credit. It's something that can really give them a leg up. Then we're asking, and this question will be changed so that it'll just ask you if you filed a tax return. did not file. Earned income from all sources for the last 30 days, child support, Social Security, military, so on. These are all just dollar figures that you would key in to this report. We're quite interested in if people, excuse me, if people are using individual development accounts. There are some other changes that you'll see here as well. Enrolled in education. One of the things that we're going to be doing is a lot more reporting on what's happening in education. Several of the partners that we're working with around what is the way out of poverty feel like we should be really honing in on this and what our circle leaders are doing in relationship to it, increasing their skills. And so we want to make sure that you're capturing this information. There will in the next release of this information will actually be presented in a little different part of the survey, and there will be a separate place in the data system to store information about education. But we want to make sure that you're capturing that information. Employment status, there's also, while we'll want you to capture this, there's also a place in the data system for capturing employment. When people start jobs, when they quit, what their hourly rates are, salary, all that kind of stuff. One of the things that we're finding that people are not responding to is in times of trouble, I can count on this many people. A lot of people aren't populating this, and yet it's something that's kind of critical to the data that we're trying to gather around social capital. We introduce allies to circle leaders to increase their social capital and to increase them, into their network so that there's more people that they can count on. We just started looking at this data and realized that in many of the reports, even the reports filed in 2013, this wasn't filled in. So it may be that it's asked incorrectly or it's not precise enough. And any feedback that we can get in how to ask this question more appropriately so that we get the information that we need around social capital would be very, very helpful. Written plan for self-sufficiency, an individual development account, safe and stable place to live, reliable means of transportation. We're reporting on this now as well. The annual reports that you'll see at conference that you can run for your site or your chapter that we run nationally for our results will have information about how we're doing in these particular categories as well. Okay, I think most of these other things are pretty self-evident. Anyway, you just go ahead and fill these in, and when you're finished, you end up hitting the create key down here. And it creates this, brings it up in the view screen. You can review it to make sure that the data went in there correctly. And if it didn't, you can just go to the update screen, go back into the Circle Leader survey and update what you need to update. Now there's one other change that we're going to be establishing here, and that has to do with your family composition. This question will still be here because we still want to know this information. But there will be a second one that will ask exactly how many people are in your family. It'll just be a raw number, 1, 5, 7, 3, whatever it is. And that information will be used against the percent of poverty guidelines that you've established for your site in your site. Let me just go to that so that you can see that. If we go back to the site here, there's a percent of poverty guidelines that you establish at your site level right here. And we'll be using the total number of people in your household and your income to determine where you are in relationship to the poverty guidelines and how far you've moved in getting closer to being able to be economically stable. So we're pursuing all of these things. We highly encourage you to keep this information up to date as you go in to do your circle leader surveys. There will be an area which will talk about the profile. We've talked about the profile in the other video about circle leaders, but it's out here, and so you'll go in and you'll update this profile. Their plan for moving out of poverty, generational or situational, what their current status is, and this can be updated at any time. If they drop out of the program, if they do something else, then we would want you to go in and update this immediately so that we have accurate information. Consent given, ethnic background. There will be a second section which will deal directly with education. And you'll be inputting that data into a new area in the database where we capture that the education data. And then you'll do the circle leader survey. At the same time, we would encourage you to do the life assessments. And both of these documents can be found on Basecamp at CUSA data. So I hope you have a great day. We're having a very interesting time looking at the data and analyzing it, being able to expose it so that everybody knows what the data looks like, sharing it with our partners that are doing evaluations, and helping us get to a place where we can be more effective in working with our circle leaders and changing our communities. So have a great day. We'll be seeing you in another video soon. Thanks.